This is Goals with Soul, the podcast for visionary coaches and entrepreneurs, building your business with inspired action. In alignment with your mission and authentic message, so you can create impact for your soul clients and feel lit up every day. I'm your host, Jo Ingram, married mum of 3 daughters from London and a former ad agency director turned business coach and strategist. In Goals with Soul, we blend revenue generation with energetics, marketing strategies with pranic healing, and ambitious business goals with our soul's desires. If you're looking to build your business with less efforting and more ease, this is the podcast for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to the 100th episode of Goals with Soul. I'm Jo Ingram and we have been on a journey together. Since this podcast first launched in December 2020, at the time it was called Action Taker Tribe, we have travelled through so many topics about building our businesses in alignment with ease and flow and hitting goals and reaching new heights as coaches and as CEOs of our business. And although this is, of course, celebrating the 100th episode of this podcast, more than anything, it's about celebrating you, about celebrating the journey that we've all been on as we take the steps towards what we really wish to achieve in this world, what our true calling is, and what we're really meant to do. And if, like me, you entered into the coaching and entrepreneurial space somewhat doubtful about what exact value you had to give and are now serving clients, showing up with consistency and with passion, I salute you. You are doing an amazing job. And because this is the 100th episode, I feel it's a great opportunity to look in a little bit more detail around a couple of the things that really lead to success. And of course, I can't start without talking about consistency. I never imagined I'd be sitting here telling you about my 100th episode. It just didn't cross my mind. But what did cross my mind was that I was just going to keep showing up every single week and sharing what was on my heart. And I could only start where I was. And perhaps this is something you can relate to. Sometimes you just don't think that you're enough, that you have a message that's going to resonate, that you have enough value to give. You start feeling like an imposter in your space. And this can happen when you first become a coach, but it can also happen as you level up and introduce new areas of expertise that you want to help your students and your clients with. When I first started, then called Action Taker Tribe, it was literally about coming out of corporate, looking to see where I was. And I saw my value then as an action taker, as somebody that could hold others accountable and help them take the steps forward so they could make progress. So I simply started there. And I started talking about productivity, about taking action. And that was really successful when I started. Do you know why? Because I had such conviction in those being the exact steps that you needed to take to have success. But I changed. I came up against new challenges and new struggles. And being an action taker had its drawbacks because I was taking action from a wounded masculine perspective. It was all about the doing and not enough about the being. And so, of course, it was no surprise that 6 to 8 months into business, I was completely burned out. I decided that I was going to do everything. You know, we talk about doing all the things. Well, I had decided that that was exactly what I was going to do. I started my podcast. I was running a membership. I launched 3 programs that only ran once. I was trying to master 4 different media platforms and mastering absolutely everything simultaneously. And I remember so vividly that day that I decided enough was enough. I've just been through a large launch following the exact steps that a leading online coach had taught me. And although they had been very successful for her, doing it all on my own in a brief period of time was just completely overwhelming. And having worked, I think, 3 17-hour days in a row, I just turned to my husband, but also to myself, and I said, this is not the dream. This is not why I left corporate. This is not why I'm showing up to serve in honor of my why. My why is time freedom, my time to spend with my family and doing the things I love, to walk in nature and to do yoga and to speak with people and just be. And none of what I was doing was in alignment with that. But more than anything, it was an opportunity to reassess what my values were and reassess how I was showing up and reassess my messaging. what I had to say to the world. And so I really lent into learning far more about spirituality. It's where I got my certification in pranic healing, became a breathwork facilitator, leaned deeply into the law of attraction, doing programs and courses so I could just absorb more and more. And as I was doing so, and the divine feminine started to drop in, where I was able to access ease and flow, and I got into habits, including journaling and meditation and meditative walks and so on. As all of that happened, I realized that actually I had some different messages to share. And that's where I started showing up here on this podcast to talk about my journey. Did I feel ready to talk about law of attraction? I did not. I did not feel like an expert in any sense of the word. And I still don't today. I feel like a lifelong learner. I call myself humorously an energy curator because I love bringing stories of energy work and contributing what I can and accessing inspiration through those that really have mastered specific modalities. And that's why later I started doing the interviews here, which I do hope you're enjoying. I'm bringing guests that are truly inspirational to me. Some of them are bigger and well-known, and others have hardly any following and serve a really niche audience, but do it so beautifully. And I've been so inspired by them that I simply get that calling as I see someone online or doing their thing. And I just say, you know what, I'd love for you to come on Goals with Soul. And thankfully, pretty much everyone accepts, and I have the most amazing conversations with them. And I'm celebrating this podcast for giving me that opportunity and for gifting me the honour to bring their expertise to you too. And so back to consistency. Consistency has been an absolute marvel in this business for me. But I do want to define something about consistency that has changed for me over time. And this might really be something that you haven't thought of before. Because when I first became the action taker, consistency meant doing the same thing all the time. It meant being in social media every single day without fail. And I achieved that for a whole year. I never missed a day. But I'm not sure if that's something to be proud of anymore. It's not in honour and alignment with really how I show up now and the things that I believe most in. And that's why I always create an opportunity for inspired action at the end of every episode. And it's carefully called inspired action because it's about dropping in to what we're feeling most inspired to do and then taking action from that place, from the place of ease and flow rather than the place of hard pushing, striving, doing. And I speak, of course, from experience because I've experienced what it's like to be the pusher and the overprover. And I've also tapped into what it's like to be in ease and flow. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to show up and tell you that I've got it all sorted, that now I'm this easygoing person and I never have to worry. That's not the case at all. The reality is that now I have awareness and I have strategies and things that I like to do to help lift me out of my limiting mindset. And I have to practice them with consistency. I know that when I don't, I drop out of alignment. And this is something that I experience. It's like cycle. Suddenly it'll come to me that I haven't been doing as much of my ease and flow practices. And yes, things feel hard. Perhaps the clients don't seem to be flowing into my inbox the way that they were. Or perhaps I myself are feeling overwhelmed by some of the work that I have to do. And it occurs to me, this is the way things were before you learned a new way. Get back into alignment and I start reprioritizing. Suddenly it's not most important to post every day. It is most important to get out in the forest and have my walk, feed my swans who have a new batch of cygnets, which is absolutely lovely. In case you've been following my story of the swans last summer, I was feeding them by hand, these little baby swans, all the way up to the adulthood, and they moved off. And now the parents have a new little crop of beautiful cygnets, and they're not eating from my hand as yet, but they are coming right over and eating in front of me. And little pleasures, right? Little things like this, consistency in who you are in the world and who you be, not just what you do. So consistency now is about really leaning into the pleasures of life and allowing those pleasures to be your purpose and your work too. Allowing your work to be pleasurable because you're following those breadcrumbs and doing the things that really feel in alignment, joyful, even if your old, maybe ex-corporate brain or your driven, over-proving type A brain has to say to you that this isn't real work. This is a waste of time. You need to get back to your computer. Well, this is a message perhaps for you today, which is that it isn't a waste of time, and it's actually more valuable to get yourself into that alignment than it is to do any of the things on your to-do list. And believe me, I don't say that lightly. It's like looking at my own to-do list. I sometimes think everything on here is equally as important and I have to prioritise it. But it isn't as true as finding the one thing that will support all the others for the day. And that's often about starting the day well, having a good morning routine, asking yourself about your why again, taking a deep breath, maybe getting out of bed and not checking your phone first thing. Whatever that might look like to you, be consistent about calling in the pleasure of what you're doing and the reason why you're doing it. And so today I'm here to celebrate you, celebrate all the things you do to create success in your business and share your vulnerability and authenticity as you travel through your journey. I'm really privileged to be zooming into your ears right now. I know that you have a choice of a lot of different podcasts to listen to and so many other things that could draw your attention. And so the fact that we have this connection and we're able to meet regularly and have these conversations is just something that I'm so honoured and blessed to be able to do. And as we move now into the second half of 2022, gosh, how incredible that time has flown so fast, right? And as we move into this together, I want to reach out and ask you to become an even greater part of Goals with Soul. Please do send me some emails or DM me on Instagram. I'm at iamjo.ingram there. And if you haven't already, I would be so grateful if you could drop in and subscribe to Goals with Soul and leave me a 5-star review. You can only do that on Apple Podcasts, actually on the app on your phone. So my thanks to people who've reached out and tried to do so on Spotify. But at the moment, unfortunately, that's just not possible with the tech. And on the note of taking joy and doing what you love, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to build this podcast to its current 5% top podcast position. This week, we're ranking number 1 in Lebanon, which is fantastic. And I'm regularly hitting the charts in Slovenia and Croatia. This year, I've also hit some of the top positions in Japan, Canada, and the UK. If you've got suggestions for some of the topics you would love to see covered in the next half of this year, please send me a message. And know that if you want to open yourself to your most authentic and brilliant personal messaging for your business, that is, of course, my area of expertise. As a brand messaging strategist, I'm here to support you so you can express your unique brilliance, you can stop hiding, and you can create messaging that attracts the soulmate clients that you're meant to work with. Come connect with me on Instagram or send me an email on joe@iamjoeingram.com and let's chat about what you need. And I'd like to leave you today on a final note, and that's about celebration. Let's celebrate our milestones, no matter how big or small they are. Celebrating the 100th episode is something I nearly didn't do. I nearly didn't do it because I got myself into busy work. And I kept saying, you really should record something specific, something special to celebrate the 100th episode. And I kept looking at that and thinking, I just don't know what to say. I don't know why I'd be showing up. But then I realised today, incidentally, on a walk in the woods, as I was allowing that creativity to flow through and divine inspiration, I just knew that I wanted to show up and talk about this exact episode. It's not scripted. I'm just stood here talking from the heart and sharing what I think is most important. And it struck me that sometimes we fail to celebrate our milestones, our achievements, because we're always looking on to the next thing. Abraham Hicks talk about how when we have something in our vortex and we really want to achieve something, when we actually get there, it feels like old chewed up chewing gum. All the juice has gone. It's no longer something that feels juicy and you want to look forward to whatever is next. And although we should always be striving towards betterment, we need to do it from a place of appreciation. And appreciation includes celebration. So it would be the perfect inspired action to invite you to this week, to look at what you've done, how you felt, and take a moment to celebrate how you've shown up, to celebrate the small things that you've done, or perhaps big things that you haven't shouted about, told others about, or even taken a moment to reflect on yourself. So I'm here to celebrate you. And thank you again for being with me on this journey. And I look forward to connecting more deeply soon. Have an inspired action week. Take care. Bye now.